Fuck me.
Hello. So I got 20 ounces of black coffee and some raw milk here that I'm going to drink before I train. But I want to talk about fat on a carnivore diet and the absolute importance of this macronutrient. Probably the biggest mistake I see people make when they come off of a vegan diet and they start eating meat is that they don't eat enough fat. And I did this when I first started eating meat again after being a vegan. Didn't eat enough fat. I bought this really lean piece of meat and I was eating it. I ate it raw and thinking that I could just eat this thing raw and then it would digest really well because that's what I heard. You know, raw meat digests really good, and it didn't. It got stuck and I felt constipated. I felt very lethargic and tired because there wasn't enough fat. And this is the most common mistake I see people make. People that come ask me questions through email or Instagram, they're not eating enough fat and they get constipated, and they sort of it sort of confirms this idea that's thrown around within veganism that you can't digest meat properly because we're not designed to do it. It's totally not true, though. It's just you need correct amounts of fat, and you need correct stomach acid. That can be a problem with vegans too. They might have low stomach acid. So fat. Where can you get fat? So when you eat meat, say you're eating beef, there's different cuts of meat, and something like tenderloin will obviously be very lean, not have very much fat, but something maybe like brisket or a ribeye will have more fat. If you can't afford something like ribeye and you can't find anything at your grocery store or what you have available that has enough fat, you can add other types of fat. You could add something like raw butter. Now, if you want to add pasteurized butter, I don't recommend that as a main source of fat because fat's very important. There's a lot of vitamins that are in fat that are important, and when you pasteurize butter, it compromises the bioavailability. Getting ahead of myself, and you slow down. When you pasteurize butter, it compromises the bioavailability of some of these vitamins. So I don't recommend it. I don't recommend pasteurized butter as a primary fat source. If you want to cook with it, I do that. I do it all the time, and it seems to be fine. I don't have any troubles digesting it. Maybe you're very sensitive to dairy. In that case, I would ex-nay on the butter. So you can do butter. You can do egg yolks. Egg yolks are very good. You can just drink them raw with your meal, or cook them into your steak, or however you want to do it. Egg yolks are a great source of fat. If you have a butcher nearby, the best way to do it would be to ask your butcher, do you have any fat, like trimmed fat from your beef? That would be the best way to go because usually it's very cheap and very easy to digest, that stuff, especially if you have like dairy intolerance or maybe egg allergies. The beef fat will probably be your best bet. So you can do that. You can get beef fat, sheep fat, maybe suet from the kidneys, the fat from around the kidneys, and then you can make that into tallow, or you can just eat it raw, or you can just cook it with your steak, whatever you want to do. Now, one of my favorite sources of fat is bone marrow, because I found that it's pretty easily available within America. Like I can go to most grocery stores and they'll sell like a plastic thing of sliced bones, and the marrow is inside, and you just like push the marrow out, and then I'll just put that raw next to my steak after I cook my steak, and it's very good. Sort of creamy, buttery, and when it gets warm next to the cooked steak, it sort of gets melty, and it's sort of like butter. It's really good though. My dogs freak out about it. It's a very nutrient dense food. My cousin just showed up, so I had to pause. I'm going to wrap this up and then go train with my cousin. Maybe record. Maybe that's for another video. So, if you're going to add butter to your diet as a main source of fat, make sure it's raw, not pasteurized. But fat is very important. You can't eat lean meat. You can't eat lean chicken breast all the time on a carnivore diet and expect to be healthy and feel good. You're not going to feel good. If you don't have enough fat, you're probably going to run into constipation. You're going to feel lethargic, probably going to have skin issues, all kinds of issues. And I actually haven't got enough fat in today, and I think I don't feel like my brain is very clear right now, and that's probably a lot of the reason why. So make sure you all get fat in. Those are my favorite sources, my favorite ways to get fat. Ideally, I wish I could just eat ribeye all the time, but I don't have the money for that. I don't have the budget for that. So one day I will, but not now. So I do things like raw butter. I do things like egg yolks and the bone marrow. Bone marrow is typically pretty cheap too. So yeah, that's it for that. Just fat's important, and those are some ways to get fat. I'm just going to keep it simple for you guys, and cheers, and have a good one.